very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the second episode, the second episode of Chef's Kitchen series, brought to you by Norwegian Culture Center. So Chef's Kitchen is one of the many culture programs produced by Norwegian Culture Center. And for this particular program, we go beyond the kitchen, bringing you closer to the Norwegian culture through food. So I'm Jacklyn, your host and workshop facilitator for this episode. So first and foremost, I would like to request all participants to be on mute during the whole workshop. But please do keep your video on so we could see your pretty and handsome faces. Now, but if you have any urgent questions regarding the cooking procedures, or you are unsure if you are doing anything wrongly, don't worry, just put up your hands and I will unmute you so you could ask the chef. And if you have any other questions, you could wait till the Q&A at the end of the sessions where you can ask the chef to clear your doubts. Now, let us enjoy a video by the Norwegian Seafood Council. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Chef Jimmy Chok.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi Jimmy.
Hi.
So I know that you are very familiar and you are an expert with salmon. So can you share with us more, introduce and more details about salmon?
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jimmy. I've actually been promoting salmon for the last 13 years with the Norwegian Seafood Council. So what I actually do is I travel the region, Southeast Asia, and I actually help to educate consumer, retailers, and chefs, F&B industries on how, where, and all the other etc. how to handle salmon. So I've been doing this for about 13 years now. So I have been sort of like dealing with salmon and knowing the in and out of the industry. And I have personally visited myself Norway to see the farming industry. So it's a huge industry, amazing industry. I must say, before I've actually been there, my perception of salmon is just another fish. But having visited Norway and come back and been working with the product for the last 13 years is amazing. It's one of the most consistent farm products from Norway. So this is why I've actually started to promote doing this class, because basically it's important to share knowledge and to share and let people know why the fish is so important. And I also believe this is one of the best export of Norway.
Wow. Yeah, and chef, I think a lot of people got mistaken between salmon and trout.
Correct.
Can you just enlighten us on this?
Sure. Okay. I think the biggest issue is people assume these two fish are the same, but they are not the same. Okay, so you hear it from me. Okay, you hear it from me. Number one, there is no such thing as something called salmon trout. Salmon trout does not exist. If you go to Norway and ask anybody in Norway, can I have salmon trout? They will look at you with a weird, look at the face and say, what is that? So there is salmon, there is trout. So how to differentiate now is salmon, the trout is called now fjord trout. So it's two different fish. They're not related. They are not even brother and sisters. They have no bloodline in it, but they are just a fish that carries the same color. So people assume that it's the same fish, but it's not the same fish at all. Yeah.
Is there any difference between how the whole fish look like, the two different fish?
Yeah, the fish has, I can show you now, a picture I have, but it's just a totally different fish. So if you look at the fish, this picture now, you can see this is two different fish. How can they be the same to begin with? Right? It's totally different. The one at the top is actually a trout. The one at the bottom is your salmon. It's actually, okay, Norwegian salmon is basically Atlantic salmon. There's only one kind of salmon from Norway, it's Atlantic salmon. All right, if you go to the US, the Pacific waters, you can have up to 6 types of variety of salmons, the Kuah, the pink salmon and so forth. But from Norway, it's only Atlantic salmon. So from that picture, you can see the one at the top is trout, the one at the bottom is salmon. Look at the size of the fish. The trout has a fatter belly, a rather fatter body, wider, and the salmon has a sharper body. You know, the head, the trout, if you see the head, it tends to be rounder in the front, whereas salmon is sharper in the front. So, I mean, from appearance, it looks very different fish. If you see the whole fish, you know it's different. But if I will fill out the fish, you will have a hard time, seeing which is which. But not really, actually. Trout tend to have a bit more orange color, brighter orange, and salmon does tend to have a bit duller in the color. But having said that, the color of the fish do not dictate how fresh the fish is. All right, because there are two different kinds of fish. They don't carry the same color, in their body. That's like human. You and me, different color. We're all different, not the same tone. So salmon has the same, and trout is what it is. It's different color, but it does not tell that trout is fresher than salmon because of the flesh is brighter. That's about it. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. And Chef, thank you. But you also mentioned that you visited Norway to the fish farms. And what is so different or so special about their farming methods?
Okay, I have to be very, very, very honest with you. I mean, the whole process of salmon farming, I think, dates back about 60 years now. They have done a lot of research. And I think the most important thing is you hear a lot of things about fish farming is bad for the sea, bad for the environment, and so forth. I think being the second biggest export of Norway after oil and gas, the fishing industry is the second biggest export of Norway. Having said being the biggest, I don't believe that the farming techniques are going to harm the environment because it's a huge industry. Okay, in Norway, there's about 1,000 licensed farms, and this farm has to be licensed before they can actually farm the fish. So you need to basically go to the government, tell the government where is your farm going to be, and they will come and check and see whether the area is suitable for farming, whether there is enough, environment is protected, and so forth. So a lot of regulation has to be followed before you can allow to farm the fish. All right. So it takes a long process. So basically, the fish takes 2.5 to 3 years to grow from egg size to about a market size of 4 to 5 kg. So it takes about 2.5 to 3 years. It takes a long time to grow a fish. So the whole process has been sort of like improved year in, year out since they started. So they do look after the fish in a very human way. The fish is treated, and it's not forced to grow. They're not force-fed to grow. They're growing by their own environment. The fish is not GMO modified. They don't modify the growing of the fish. The fish has been bred and grow according to how nature has made salmon or trout to be. So, meaning salmon and trout do grow in the river, freshwater, and they actually grow up at the sea. Okay, in nature, they will die back where they are actually born. So that's nature. Don't ask me. I'm still thinking how to find an answer for that, but it is what it is. In nature, salmon grows in the river, born in the river, grow up in the sea, and then die back in the river, exactly where they were born. Okay, don't ask me why I can't answer that. I'm asking that question myself, but I can't answer that question. But that's how it is. So the fishing industry has actually followed how the fish, by nature, how they grow. So what they did is that the first year of the fish, they are actually bred in fresh water on land. Right? After a year, when they are about 100 gram size, they are ready, like what nature intend them to be. They will swim up to sea. The fish are brought to sea cages, and they are left there to grow for about two years. So nothing has been changed. The fish has been treated the way nature given to the world. They just follow it and they grow it. And the practices that they have followed for the last 60 years is sustainability, traceability, and a lot of care is being put into fish farming. So that's the big difference because they have the know-how. Okay, I think go back a little bit, I pull back. If you've been to Norway, you see that Norway is surrounded by mountains and they're all fjords around it. All right, fjords is basically two mountains running through and seawater goes through the mountain during the ice age, if I'm not wrong, the ice age and build up there. So that water is a seawater, it's a moving water. Because of this is a moving seawater, it's the most ideal environment for the fish to grow. And because of this, Norway has found, I would say, one of the second best export they have by growing salmon since day one. So they have the expertise because around them are sea. If you look at their land, it's all up the mountain. You can't grow anything much there. They have fertile land, but very limited, but they have huge mountains. So the sea is their best source of resources. Okay? And the Vikings are good at sea, so, you know, yeah.
Yeah, can you, I know you talk about cage, so they are also in cages in the sea when the...
Yes, correct, yeah. They are kept in open cage, not open cage, sorry, basically in cage in the sea. But I think one thing you have to understand, under the strict regulation of Norwegian trade or fishery that actually runs Seafood Council, the law is in the point that when you have the cage on your farm, the cage can go about 100 meters to 200 meters wide. It's about 45 to 60 meters deep. That was what I know for the past, but now I believe they're actually bigger and bigger. They go about 70, 80 meters deep now. And they are actually improving a lot of farming techniques. But by law, regardless of how big your cage is in sea, the population of fish in each cage has to be only 2.5%. Meaning if your water is 100%, the amount of fish that can be in that cage is only 2.5%. That is called animal welfare because you need to protect and give the space for the fish to grow healthily without fighting. Meaning the cage is actually the fish swimming in the cage, they have more space than you sitting in the MRT at 7 o'clock in the morning in Singapore or in Japan for that matter. All right, they have more space, okay? They are not standing closely, they have space to grow. So that's called animal welfare, and that's by law, okay? So that's important. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very interesting comparison.
Well, everybody says, fish is swimming together. Yeah, fish swims together. They don't swim separately, right? They swim as a group. When you look at the cage, wow, they're so packed. But that's how fish swims in water, right? They swim in a group. They don't swim alone, right? They're not Lone Ranger, right? They are swimming in a group, so, you know.
Yeah, and I think it is definitely very enlightening when you talk about how farming is done in Norway and the fish welfare. But then there are a lot of other places that has salmon as well. But how do we identify which are the salmon, which is the right one, and which has gone through the proper way of farming?
Well, that's why you see my apron here. That's the only way you can see. Okay, now our salmon, okay, I would say our salmon, I'm very proud of being associated with salmon from Norway. Our salmon is branded. See, when you have a label on your packaging of this, what you see on my apron now, you're buying the original. Basically, like you're buying a Prada, Gucci, and LV, you have that brand, that logo there, right? So my salmon has this logo there. So if you have this logo, you're buying the original. Okay, so that's the only way we can tell you because there's no other way we can differentiate the fish. Okay, salmon comes from many places, Chile, Scotland, Norway, the Scandinavian countries, Australia, US. All right, so there's a lot of countries that produce salmon. But from Asia perspective, I would safely say Singapore, your salmon is 95% from Norway, and they're all fresh and not frozen. Okay, that's the big difference. Right? There are fish coming from Australia, there are fish coming in from other parts of the world. The only thing I can share with you is when you're buying the real salmon, it's actually you're buying the logo that you see on the packaging.
Yeah. And I think you did mention before about the ID of the salmon.
Yes, sustainability. Okay, and traceability. The most important thing now about traceability. I would being a chef for the last 25 years, I would say that I have not come across where I can tell people that, okay, when I'm using salmon, I can tell you, I can trace back where the salmon comes from. I may not be able to tell you where my beef comes from or where my vegetable comes from, but for salmon, I can actually tell you where it comes from, okay? Because every piece of salmon that's been farmed and exported out from Norway, they are given a passport, which you see at your screen now. So what is the passport all about? Number one, the fish will come in a styrofoam box with, so what the box tells you is the kind of fish you're getting, the grade of fish you're getting, how heavy is the fish, and then when was it harvested and how long you can keep the fish, and also the factory's number and so on, so on, so forth. But this label also keeps the history of the fish, meaning assuming you have a piece of fish from a certain place and you fall sick and you say the source of your sickness is from the salmon, we can actually trace back to Norway where the fish came from. I mean, it goes back to basically who was the grandfather, grandmother, who was the mother, where were they born, what date were they born, what they ate, who fed them, where were they slaughtered, which boat they took, which box they took, which airline they flew on, and so forth. This is not a joke. This is 60 years of putting effort into sustainability. All right? So this is where the assurance of what Norwegian salmon or the industry can give to you. In fact, to share with you this, Norway is the only country in the world now who has came out, I think about 5 years ago, to tell you if you buy salmon, farm salmon from Norway, you can have it raw without freezing the fish. And this is a big statement because in the past, by law, the US law regulation is that when you eat raw fish, you have to freeze it for about 24 hours before you can eat it raw. The 24 hours freezing is to kill whatever worms that's in the fish. But that's only happens if you're having wild fish. For farm salmon, there is no worms in the fish because it's farm and you're able to eat it raw. How can we say, by telling you eat raw without any proof? The proof is very simple. Randomly, by law in Norway, the fish are tested yearly. So between 12 to 13,000 fish are caught randomly all over Norway and they're tested at the private lab to ensure the fish is safe and so forth. So that is the assurance that the whole industry is given to whoever that uses Norwegian salmon around the world. And we are at 150 countries around the world, to be very honest with you. Okay? So.
Wow, Chef. Yes, thank you. And I think we have a question from one of our participants, Olga.
Yes. Hello, Chef.
Hi.
I have a question. Actually, when I'm coming to the shop, how can I find this brand of the salmon which you show on your apron? Where can I?
Okay, this is the biggest task we have been facing for the last I can say last 13 years of my time dealing with Norwegian salmon is we are trying very hard to push this, but I can safely tell you most of our retail supermarkets are carrying Norwegian salmon. All right? Only the small boutiques, butcheries are maybe carrying a different breed of salmon. The label are there in certain supermarkets, but we have been pushing very hard for them to use the label because the label was created because we did a research in the market and sometimes people buy because they know where the source is from. So that's credibility to the brand. So that's why we have this logo. But the problem, to be very honest with you, is we're trying to get retailers to support this program is to put the label on it so that you are telling people you're buying the original fish. The label is out there. I can't tell you where, everywhere, but it is out there. They are meant to be there, to be put on the packaging of the fish. When they pack the fish, they actually put the label on it. Right? So that's
you
how.
should look at the package more carefully because some retailers they put it and some are not.
Well, that's one thing that's one thing that's hard on us because we are trying to basically educate, and it's basically a never-ending process. So we have been telling that you put the label on to create awareness and also to create, how would I say, security that you're buying the real stuff. So we are doing that. Give us time, it takes time, but we'll be there. But this label is actually out there already in the market. Yeah. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Chef, you have shared a lot about the fish welfare and like where you can trace where your salmon is from. This is all very interesting, and a lot of people have been talking about how good salmon is and how nutritious salmon is. Like, can you tell us more about what benefits and how good is salmon?
Well, I think the past time that I've been dealing with salmon, I think we have also covered a lot in terms of educating consumer on why you eat salmon. Basically, what you see on the picture now is all the vitamins and minerals that you need from eating fish. But I think one thing stands out from salmon is the omega-3, which is the fatty acid in the fish, which our body cannot produce, but our body needs it. All right? Yes, you can get omega-3 from other things like grains and so forth. But our local seafood, the warm water seafood, do not have much omega because oily fish from cold water is different than warm fish from the Asian waters. They are very different. So cold water fish tends to carry a bit more oil in their body. They need that to keep afloat, not to just sink because of the water temperature is different. So that is what salmon can offer the most. In fact, I think a lot of cold water seafood are the one that produces your capsule for your, your omegas, your salmon oil or whatever capsule that you eat for vitamins are from cold water seafood. And salmon is one of the best source for it. All right, you need that. In fact, they've done research now that even the American Heart Foundation has came out to endorse heart patient advised to have at least 250 grams of salmon weekly per week, which is about palm, the size of your palm on a weekly basis. The oil helps you to basically, help your body, the blood flows better and so forth, and what it does inside there. So that's why people are eating salmon. This is why Southeast Asia, especially in Thailand, has fell in love with salmon. In Southeast Asia, the biggest country that's endorsing salmon non-stop or eating salmon non-stop is Thailand, because they have now managed to bring salmon into their local food, and they have embraced the product because it works well, and salmon works very well with Asian flavors, which a lot of people don't know. Right? A lot of us, even chefs in this part of the world, always associate salmon with Western cooking. To a point, honestly, I'm saying this, it can be a bit boring, right? So you can make it more interesting. And not only Japanese food, salmon, Asian food, your spice, your curry works beautiful with salmon. So give it a try. It is very, very good, right?
Oh, thank you, Chef, for this very insightful sharing about salmon. And now he just mentioned that he wants Asian flavors is very good for salmon. So let us now get ready to prepare the delicious dish for today, which is stir-fried Norwegian salmon.
Yes, I'm actually doing a very simple dish, and I always believe in my cooking. Keep things simple, because you want the natural flavor of whatever you're cooking to come out, right? So don't do more than what you need to do to the fish. All right. For me, the most important thing, like rule number one to me when you're dealing salmon is do not ever overcook the fish, because the fish is actually full of oil, full of moist. If you overcook it, it becomes dry, it becomes grainy, it sucks in the teeth. It's not pleasant anymore. So always remember not to overcook the fish. That's number one rule, right? I have questions before from many consumers. Chefs, can you eat half cooked? Are you sure you can eat half cooked? I said, why not? So you eat raw fish, half cannot. So what's the difference, right? It's edible. The fish is, as I said just now, the government has mentioned you're allowed to have it raw when you buy from Norway. All right, the Japanese, all right, a bit of history of Japanese sashimi and sushi. Do you know that before the 1980s in Japan, salmon was not in the menu for sushi and sashimi? All right, in early 1980s, the Norwegian are the guys who actually brought salmon to Japan and promoted salmon in Japan. And today, salmon has overtaken tuna as the number one fish in all Japanese sashimi restaurants. So that's what salmon has become. So when you go to Japan, you see the fish is, wow, you go there, you eat the salmon from Japan, oishi, Japanese salmon is nicer. Excuse me, it comes from Norway too, not from Japan. All right? Japan has their salmon, but they don't have enough for their own consumption. They have it wild salmon. So Norwegian salmon still goes into Japan. All right? So eating the same fish. So how do I treat my fish when I do a stir fry? Simple. What I have today is simply a quick stir fry with ginger, garlic, spring onion, chilies, and I want to flavor it with things like oyster sauce, sesame oil, soya sauce, Chinese wine, and a bit of sugar. So it's a very simple dish. So what I always do with my salmon is I always like to sear it first. If you're doing a stir fry, always do a quick sear on the outer of the fish first and bring it out from the pan before you cook it again with the sauce. The reason being is very simple. If you were to fry this fish now in the pan straight away, the fish will break because it's a very oily and flaky fish. So by searing it first, you're actually making a crust outside of the fish. So it keeps it more solid, it won't break when you stir fry it later. Alright? So first step is I'll just have cut cubes, have a nice hot pan ready. You can have a wok, you can have whatever you want, whichever you have at home. But I just use a frying pan here. So just have a nice, just do a quick sear by throwing the fish in. Okay. Okay, just leave it there for a while. Don't stir it around. Right? Our mom will just start going and doing this and that and this. Don't have to do that. Just leave it. Okay, the fish is cooking. Right? Don't have to start hitting the wok and banging the wok. All this. It doesn't make the fish any nicer. Okay, just leave it. All right, please. Because the more you stir it, you will break the fish. Right? So what you want here now is to give a nice sear. So you sear up the fish to keep it more solid, so-called, that it won't break when you stir fry it later.
Chef, can I ask how
Yep.
hot do we need to keep the heat? Is it low heat?
It's as hot as possible.
Oh, as
The
hot
hotter,
as
the better.
Oh,
Right? But if you are putting very hot, you need to be fast. Right? As long as you don't touch it, the moment you start touching the fish or throwing it up and down, it becomes hot, cold, it will start to sweat. Meaning the water will start to come up from the fish. Right? Same with anything you cook. The moment you start tossing too often, you are making it jump up and down. Hot, cold, you start to sweat. So things become dry faster. Right? Don't need to rush, you see? Just relax, enjoy it. Therapeutic, you see? Turn it around, find the right one, next one. So you don't mix anything up. Right? You can see now, this is called searing. So you sear this up so that it's nice and caramelize it so it won't break later. Okay? You can still use a towel or a non-stick pan, okay? Touch the food, not the pan, alright? I always get the question, Chef, can I use metal or a non-stick pan? Of course you can. Touch the food, not the pan, so you won't scratch the pan. Okay? That's a free tip from me for today, besides being So once I get a nice sear, okay, all up, sear up, you can now remove it back to the plate. So all out, right? So there's some oil in the pan here. What I will normally do, I'll just give it a wipe away. Because when you cook salmon, you have a lot of natural oil coming out from the fish. It is natural, so the fish will bleed a little bit of oil. But you don't want to keep the oil inside the pan too long because this is natural oil. The more heat you put into it, that oil will start to burn. And this is the one that makes people think that salmon is smelly. It's not the fish, it's the oil that makes it smelly. Alright, so remove the oil. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is a bit of oil, fresh oil, not salmon oil, into the pan. So I'm going to basically sweat my ginger first, sliced ginger. Right, you want this to sweat first because this is the one that gives you the aroma, and it's a hard root vegetable. You need to basically sweat it properly to get the flavor out first before you toss the rest of the fish back into the pan. Right, I have some garlic here too, but I won't put together because when you put together, before this is done, this will burn. Right, this is hard, this is soft. So you wait until that is done. You will know when it's done when your whole kitchen starts to smell like ginger. That's the best part, right? So the sauce, oyster sauce, I'm going to mix all together in a small bowl so it's easier to toss in later. Soya sauce, right? Sesame oil, right? And a bit of sugar, right? Give that a nice mix. Okay. So I have some Chinese wine too, but I won't put it in. I like the Chinese wine to finish at the end of the cooking, so it gives you a bit more nice aroma at the back. Okay. So now you can see I'm starting to brown the ginger a little bit. So if you are here, you can't smell it there, but I can smell it here. The aromatic, of the ginger is coming out. So that's what you want to achieve. Right? So, right? Then I add my garlic in. Okay. Oh, smells so good. This is okay. Now I'm just sweating the ginger and garlic to get the aromatics out from it. Right? So once this is done, I'm going to throw the salmon back in, get the sauce, dump it in, quick toss, spring onion and chili in, Chinese wine, I'm done. That's how fast it is. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to do a meal at home. So, salmon back in. By doing that, the fish won't break. And see that? You keep it whole, it will not break. And now, the sauce.
Smells good, right?
It smells so good.
Yeah.
Right? Quick toss. Okay, so I mentioned just now, the Chinese wine. Finish it now. Right? And then all this goes in at the very end. Bit of pepper at the end. Quick toss. Can you see that? It smells so good. Look at that. I'm hungry now, see? Because you can't smell it, I can smell it. You see, that's what makes me hungry now. So done. So with this stir fry, try not to cut your fish too small because it will break. It will break if it's cut too small. Give it a nice chunk so that you share the shape. Okay. And in Chinese cooking, it's always about sharing, so it's always a big plate and you share. So, oops, like that. So,
Wow, this meal is definitely done in a very, very short time.
Asian food is always fast and quick, so it's always, no fast, simple ingredients, and you're done with that.
Yeah.
So how can you not like this? How can you not like this? Look at that.
Whoa, it's done.
It's so simple. If you want it a bit more sauce, you can put a bit more water in there, but I think it's fine because you want the sauce to coat the fish, so actually taste the flavor, everything at one go. And that's nice. So, see,
Yeah.
less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
So Asian cooking is pretty fast. Okay, keep it simple. Keep it simple, and that's what you want. The flavors of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Chef. It smells really, really good. And I think we have a question already from Olga.
I just have a question. You recommend in a recipe that it needs to be served with the rice, but what can be alternative? What can be good alternative to this dish?
I'm going to be very biased and honest with you. When it comes to Asian cooking, rice is the number one thing to have, because our food has gravy, has thick sauces, and rice is the best thing to absorb all that flavor. If you ask me about noodles, I don't think it works. I don't like it because it doesn't really catch the sauce in it. Pastas, a no. Potatoes, worse, not, because it becomes very salty, you absorb too much of it. I think rice is still the best. Nice fluffy rice.
couscous or quinoa or
You can. Okay, those stuff you can. Couscous, quinoa is fine. You want to do that as long the grain. I always like a bit of grain stuff to go with it. They taste better because it absorb the sauce better. So couscous, quinoa are fine. Those are fine. Those are fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions from the audience? Any more questions? Do we have any other questions regarding the cooking, the food, or anything?
It smells so good.
Sounds good. Yes, definitely.
I also want to try it very much. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. I have a dish which I like to do very much. Is I do sweet and sour asam pedas. Our local asam pedas with salmon. It works so well. I've done it for all my events I do around Southeast Asia. When I do my training, I actually cook an array of dishes for all the participants to try, and that one dish has always been the favorite. And as I mentioned, my first episode, I will not take credit for creating asam pedas dish because it was done by somebody else, but I will take credit for the first guy who put salmon into asam pedas, and it works very well. Because sourness, the oiliness, it's a match made in heaven, right? It's so nice in the palate. Yeah.
Maybe you can do it next episode then.
Sure, why not? Sure.
I'm excited now.
Yeah. So and anyone has any more questions? Like Amos, Sigrid, do you have any questions? Yeah, Amos.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm outside, so I cannot show my video, but I have no question. But I can see that the food presented here is quite. It looks good. I'm sure. If I have the opportunity to try it, maybe after the lockdown, if you have any of such sessions, I think it will be a good chance for me. But I will just try it at home because I can get all the ingredients.
I think you have it at home, all the ingredients though. But having said that, I will plan a dinner soon with the Norwegian Cultural Center out for you to try all this food. I'm eager to do it because it's a lot of people need to try salmon different way. You don't get it much in Asia and Singapore at the moment, unfortunately. But I'm happy to do one event like that. Come and support it.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, I learned something that you shared just now. It's quite informative. You mentioned that you have to clean the pan after you fry the salmon. That means to remove the oil before you start putting in the fish. Because what I typically do is I think that the oil left over by the salmon is very valuable, so I just put in all the ingredients in and then fry it, and then it turns out that like you mentioned, there's a salmon taste, not a very pleasant taste. So it's something which
Yeah, correct. Because that's what happens in a lot of households. They would think because omega-3 is not fatty acid, so that oil is healthy oil. Yes, it's healthy oil, but when the oil has already been heated, it's no more good for consumption because it's already been heated. That's why you have olive oil. Actually, most oil are cold pressed. So when it's cold pressed means the natural oil comes up from whatever you're pressing the oil from. There's no heat that goes into the press. So you get the natural oil. So salmon oil is also the same way they do it. It's cold pressed to remove the oil. No heat is put into the oil. Once you put the oil becomes overheated, it gets rancid. It doesn't taste good. It gives you a fish taste into your dish. So you should not use it as far as my advice to you.
I see. But another question is, if let's say I'm preparing cod, do I also need to remove the oil from the pan because it's also a cold water fish? Okay,
Amos, can I ask you this question first? When you mention me cod, right? Can I ask you again, what cod are you referring to now? Are you referring to the shui or the white fish that's in the market nowadays?
Okay, maybe I'll ask two questions because because I lived in Norway for 2 years, so I actually buy the frozen cod from the supermarket.
Okay.
So I actually cooked the cod. So for the frozen cod, do I prepare it the same way as you prepare it?
To be very honest with you,
For salmon?
I'll be honest with you. Atlantic cod do not have the same amount of oil that what salmon has. Okay, so when you fry the cod, a piece of cod, you need to put oil into the pan. If not, the fish will burn because the structure of a cod is not the same as the structure of a salmon. So you will not get the oil, you will not get natural oil of cod onto the fish, onto the pan. It will not, how would I say, bleed oil like what salmon will do. So you will not get oil at all from cod. Right? So you will not have the same effect of salmon. Unfortunately, it's a different. It's cold water fish, yes, but the structure of oil is different between salmon and cod. So you won't get oil in the pan. Anyway, having said, the rule is actually if you're frying a fish naturally without, besides salmon, you don't need to put oil. Other fishes, you may need to put a bit of oil. If not, actually the skin may burn quite easily if there's no oil there.
Okay. Then the second question is about the 鳕鱼.
Yeah.
Because it's more common in Singapore.
Yes. That is not cod.
Yeah, so for 鳕, that's not common.
That's not cod.
Okay.
Okay? That's another topic I'm very strong and very against because that fish is actually called a Chilean sea bass. Okay? It's a different native than the fish from Norway. The one from Norway is called Atlantic cod. Atlantic cod is only from Norwegian or cold water or Scandinavian country. There's no Chilean sea bass in Norway. Chilean sea bass come from the warmer waters, which is the Chilean waters, the South American area, that sea water. So they are different fish, but they are very oily fish. Asians love it because of the oiliness. So it's a different fish, Amos.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Chef. Thanks for sharing. If I did not attend this session, I wouldn't even tell the difference.
And just to share with you, the Chilean sea bass that you're buying outside now, the 鳕鱼 is basically a fish that's wild. Be a bit more careful, but they are mainly frozen. They don't come in fresh. But I've seen that fish. There's a lot of worms in there because it's wild. It's not farm. Okay, but because the fish is already, you can't eat that fish raw. You have to eat it cooked. They are very oily. Because they are very oily to a point that I can share with you one thing. If you put one piece of that fish in the oven, right? You roast it and you forgot about it. Maybe an hour later or so, the fish will still stay oily. And that fish has a lot of oil. To me, I think it's too much oil in that fish. It can be a bit heavy on the stomach if you eat that fish in a big amount. But Asian loves it because it's very oily. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Chef. And I must say thank you, Amos, for asking that question. I think that question about the cod and the Chilean sea bass has been on, I think, basically a lot of Asians' mind because
actually not enough info has gone out. The saddest thing is, okay, I mean, the saddest thing is that people are still using that word cod to sell that fish, which is wrong to me. I think that's what is misleading. Like cod and salmon, salmon and trout. People are using salmon as trout as salmon, and that's bad. And now, if you notice about a couple of months back in Singapore, there were someone who complained online about buying a smoked salmon in the packaging, smoked salmon. He turns behind in the ingredients, is written that trout. So that's misleading in labeling. And I think that's bad for the industry because consumers are blinded by this. So it's two different fish entirely. So unfortunately, we can't do much because people who are selling it will do whatever they want to sell the fish. We can try to advise, but it's just so much we can do about it. Yeah.
Chef, I think we have another question from Olga.
Yep.
It's actually not a question, but more like comment to what you said, because I recently been to supermarket and I bought their cod. It was written, at least on the package, that it's cod. But when I came home and I actually cooked it, I'm kind of good at fish. I know fish, and it was actually halibut.
Oh, really? See, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and then again, the halibut that you have cooked maybe doesn't come from Norway. It may come from Atlantic, not Atlantic, the Russian waters, which is a bit more oily. Halibut comes from Norway too, and comes from other part of the world too. But I think Greenland halibut. So most halibut that you see in the market is Greenland halibut. It's not Norwegian halibut. Yeah. So Norwegian halibut.
It was called
There you go.
because it's a white fish or something.
Exactly the point here. That it was one of my most, because I've been doing retail promoting of salmon for the last 13 years. I've seen all this labeling, which is very frustrating. Nothing much you can do about it because it's about knowledge. So you can see how lack of knowledge of people out there when it comes to selling things. It's all about a business, and they don't take an effort to understand the product a little bit better. So just be more careful when you buy it. Just be more careful. I mean, then you'll be safe. Go to a safe retailer. For example, if you want to buy cod, real cod, go to the retailer that knows about all this. I think in terms of Norwegian culture and Norwegian relationship, I think Snorre is one of the best people to go to because they are owned by Norwegian boss, owner, so forth, and then he imports in Norwegian seafood. So you're buying the real thing. If you're concerned, then go to the best place to buy the fish. That's my advice to everybody who wants to buy the real cod, the real halibut, the real salmon, the real trout. Go there. You are safe. Yeah. Just mention my name. Maybe get a discount. I don't know.
Thank you, Leslie.
All right, thank you, Chef. Really, I mean, thank you so much for sharing all this information. And I'm sure everyone here today have learned a lot. Like I myself, I've learned a lot of things about salmon, and then also a little bit more about cod and the Chilean sea bass. Maybe the chef we could have a session on that instead the next time.
Sure, if you're interested, I'll bring in a real cod and halibut to show you.
Whoa.
Okay, just to share, I've been to halibut farm in Norway recently, about 2 years ago, and I actually was given a tour into how halibut was farmed. Again, mind-boggling. Okay, I think I'm the only one in Singapore who has seen how a halibut looked like when he was this size.
Whoa.
Okay, I was brought back into the farming from how they farm it, And this farm is about 25 years old, 30 years old, and I've seen the first halibut that they had in the farm is still in the farm. Okay, so it's another topic by itself. You never know. If you're keen, we'll do one. I'll show you how fun the fish can be. So.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thank you so much. And I hope our participants today have enjoyed yourself, and most importantly, everyone has learned something about all these mistakes, all these misunderstandings about trout and salmon, and you learned a new dish, a stir-fried salmon. So thank you, Chef, and thank you everyone. We look forward to seeing all of you at our next session, which is on August 26th. At 6:30. All right, thank you, and hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.